Situation that is not about balance. It is about realities. And I get the pressure from the left. I get it. And I get how tight the race is. And I get how worried you are that you're not going to have the same base you had the last time. But that is not an excuse to be weak. There is a primary reality, okay? And we seem to have forgotten it. Hamas is a terror organization. You designated them as that. They stole people. They need to give the people they stole back to us, to Israel first. The hostages have become an afterthought. And that is wrong. And the reason it has happened is even more wrong. The reason it has happened is because other political exigencies and agendas have overtaken their relevance. The aid workers being hit, horrible. Matters, of course. Deserves attention, absolutely. But also makes the lack of attention to the hostages apparent. Hitting the aid workers, angels among us, is of course unacceptable. Everybody knows that. It also must be explained. And you should have called for that explanation today, because you know they already know the reason. This is a very sophisticated organization at the IDF. How can you focus on the aid workers who bravely took the risk to be there? Angels among us. That's why I and the team are willing to risk going there to see their work in action so people can see the need. But if you're going to say that what happened to them demands action, how do you not start with the return of the hostages as the most wrongfully injured victims in the entire situation? Every time you speak about what must happen, and you do not begin with, hey, terrorists, give back who you stole, you are giving terrorists a pass. Every time you don't start there, you lose the Israeli ear. Now, if Hamas gives back the hostages, which you would likely require as a sine qua non, without this, nothing, in any other situation, certainly if it were you in Israel's position, then you have leverage. You have a basis for an exchange of wants. Not stop, cease fire, expose yourself, and then we hope to get the hostages back. You wouldn't do that. You're asking Israel to do what you never would. And I don't know who else has. Pulling back, under threat, existential threat, meaning they want you exterminated. And, by the way, you don't get your people back first. And it does feed the idea. I know you hear this, especially you, Tony. And I know I hear it because I know who's talked to you about it. That it feeds this malignancy that Jews are treated differently. That Hamas is given more of a break than your main ally. Why even mention ceasefire before they give back the hostages? Now, there's an obvious reason. Too much death in Gaza. Too many innocents dying in Gaza. Children dying, starving in Gaza. You're right. We must all agree. But what has the best chance of motivating a mitigation? Threats to Israel? Never. Political pressure on Bibi? He loves it. All the more reason to force the main want. Get the hostages back. You know what response I get to this? Yeah, but Hamas, they don't want to give them back. They're bad guys. They need the leverage. Really? So, instead, you want to force Israel to relent. Imagine how much stronger the message to Bibi would be if you came in saying, we told Hamas they have until X to hand over the hostages or else. And when they do, you need to do X, Y, and Z. The people in Gaza are calling for the release of the hostages more vehemently than you are. They know Hamas has put them in this hell. What do you know? Then you have a basis for telling Israel there has to be change. Otherwise, you're basically asking Israel to give Hamas a win and withdraw. It will not happen. You know this, which means you went in today saying those things to Bibi, having them reported, when you know it's not going to happen. Not under Bibi, not under anyone, if the surveys are to be believed. So stop treating this as if Israel should be the bigger person. They are convinced they are targeted for extermination. Stop treating this like it's a debate about the debt ceiling, like it's brinksmanship, like it's a fake deadline. There is too much blood on the floor for this to be about a typical compromise, and you know it. The place to push is obvious. Hostages. And with Israel, aid. Several reasons. It's the right thing to do as a moral authority. People are starving. It's bad and it makes Israel look bad. There is less aid getting in than before October 7th, and there is more need for it than ever. You are making a generation ready for radicalization. And that's understandable. If all you know is a life of squalor and death, what do you think is going to happen? And they're going to blame America as much as Israel. This is also a chance to widen the role of other allies to make this more regional with players and more stakeholders, even if they're only monitoring and securing aid, which you can argue Israel should not be in sole control of. And then you will have more reason to have peace because there's much more precedent of an international coalition monitoring humanitarian aid than there is for asking for a withdrawal without any assurance of safety. You can provide no assurance that Israel will not be hit immediately because that's what Hamas has promised. That's what Hezbollah is doing. And the other Iranian proxies, now be honest, you have ignored. You have given Iran a pass. You have given them back billions of dollars. If you're going to make Israel take on Iran for you, then at least give them a chance to be successful. This is not ending anytime soon, and you should tell the American people. It will likely get worse, and you should tell the American people. Aid is the place that makes the most sense, that is most needed, and has the best chance of making a positive difference. What you were saying today was a mixed message that made nothing better. It may have pleased your left flank that is hyper-sympathetic to the suffering in Gaza, and there's nothing wrong with seeing the humanity in that. But that's not your job. Your job is to do something about it. And if you want to help it stop, deal with the suffering and do it smart. That's why you're running for office. And if you keep it like today, you're right. This issue may beat you. So this is the news, right? Biden, first call with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu since the aid workers were killed. And now they're saying strong rebuke. What strong rebuke? Enact a ceasefire immediately? Why? When they're not going to be safe. Look, I get it. I love the idea. Let's stop today. Everybody go back to your own corners. Let's try to be reasonable. It's not going to happen. But the hostages deserve the attention. It is unforgivable how we have forgotten. One of the hostages is 23-year-old Israeli-American Hirsch Goldberg Polin. He was at the Nova Music Festival massacre. Tragically lost his arm in a grenade blast, somehow survived it as far as we could tell from the videos that came out afterwards. Just days after his kidnapping, I went to the home of his parents. My interview with them, broke my heart, broke everybody's heart. It should. Here's a portion.
When you heard that Hirsch was one of the people who was involved in this, could you even believe it?
I instantly knew when I read the text that he wrote that he was in trouble. He doesn't at 8:11 on normal mornings write, "I love you." And the fact that he wrote, "I'm sorry," I took immediately to mean something really bad is going to happen to me, and it's going to cause you a lot of pain.
I have terrible thoughts. I'm worried about myself. I'm worried about Rachel and our girls. But my number one thought right now is whatever we're experiencing, the trauma that we're going through, for him, it's 100 times worse.
People keep coming in and saying, "How are you?" And I said, well, picture your mother and picture her knowing that you're either dead or kidnapped without an arm. That's how I'm doing. That's how we're doing.
181 days. 6 months, Sunday, since October 7th. Hirsch's parents have heard nothing from him, of course, or how he's doing. And let's be honest, it hasn't been front of mind for the powers that be. Rachel and Jonathan join me now. It is good to see you. I never thought that it was going to be this long. And yet here we are. And what do you want people to know about how you view the state of play in this situation?
Well, I think your wording was really perfect because I think when you're saying the state of play, to me, it feels that we are pawns in a game, or maybe it's theater. Obviously, we're in a place of profound, staggering trauma that is unimaginable and really quite indescribable. So, what is unfolding in our life is so hard to comprehend. And I do think a lot of what you were saying in your introduction rings very true and authentic to us.
Well, look, John, as you know, a lot of it is an advocacy for your position, because, forgive the word, but as stakeholders go in this situation, this was supposed to be the paramount thing, and always has been for Israel before then. I mean, we all know the history of how far Israel has gone, whether you want to talk about Entebbe or anything, to get back one handful of people, let alone this. When you think about blame for why it isn't all about the hostages, do you make space for, well, maybe it's got to be about more than us? Maybe this is bigger than that. How do you rationalize it to yourself?
Sure. So one of the things that we've learned in 181 days in this crash course on global diplomacy is that every person in every country has interests. We've heard that word more in 181 days than years before. And those interests seem to be getting in the way of bringing back 134 hostages. And when I say interests, I'm talking about multiple parties here having interests that somehow or other seem to take precedent over getting these hostages home. The United States of America, in my book, gets a 11 points on a 10-point scale for the way they've opened their doors to us, their access, the information they share, the support, the empathy, the hugs. But we always say we want one result here. In 181 days in, we don't have it yet. And I know that there's squeezing going on now on Bibi, and I don't even know all the details because we've been running around all day. But I can only hope that pressure like that is happening maybe behind the scenes on other parties who are at the table.
But look, I mean, I don't have to tell you guys, you're in Israel. The idea that Bibi Netanyahu or anybody is going to look at the Israeli population and say, all right, we're going to pull back, and they say they're going to give us back the hostages. Who's going to say that? I mean, the chance that you get them all back and that you know what they're going to ask for, which is, yeah, but we want these 1,200 people that we believe you have wrongly. Oh, and we want, and the list is going to get longer, and you will have withdrawn. And once you withdraw, that's it, because you know the international community won't let you back in. Does that make sense to you?
I mean, it doesn't make sense to me, and it's very frightening that that would even be something that anyone would bandy about.
That's what the president said today.
Right.
And we know why.
Right.
We know why. Because you have friends who are Democrats, who are to the left, right, of the party, and they see what's happening in Gaza, and they've put you in an impossible position, which is, yeah, now you know how they feel. Now you know how they've felt for years, the way you feel about Hirsch, because they're all held hostage. What do you do with that?
Well, what's also interesting, is that within the remaining 134 hostages that are still being held in Gaza, we talk often about the 8 United States citizens. I don't hear a lot of people talking often about there are also 8 Muslim Arab hostages being held. There are 7 Thailandi Buddhists being held. There are Nepali being held. There's Mexicans being held. There's Germans being held. You don't hear about that. You don't hear about the Black Christian African young men who are being held. You only hear this number 134, and we don't define who those people are. So also there's a story that's very unjustly and not righteously being explained. So there's that element as well. But I think it's, when you ask, obviously, a parent, and so we are not seeing things objectively. We are purely acting out of innate primal instinct.
Of course.
We want our child back. We want our only son back. And all of these families all over the world who are suffering, these parents we've seen interviews of the father of one of the young men from Africa whose son was in Israel getting a second degree,
Right.
a master's degree in agriculture. We all just want our people back. And it's beyond comprehension that there would be a conversation about anything non-conditional on that.
How do you deal with the most likely scenario, which is, and I'm not going to any dark place because I'm about the hope of you getting your boy back, and that's a sustaining for the people who care
Right.
as it is for you. But the reality is, this is getting deeper. Okay, there's a good chance that this extends, and that Israel will do what America has not wanted to do. And I'm not advocating for military action with the United States. Iran is the head of the snake. Israel just hit those generals to send a message. They are clearly saying they will go into Iran. So the chance that this gets worse and longer is as real as anything else. How do you handle that?
Well, I'll say a couple of things. First of all, I remember when you were in our apartment and we had a sign on our balcony of the number of days, like on our chests, and we never could have imagined that we'd have to expand it from a 2-digit counter to a 3-digit counter. The fact that we're today at day 181 and that conversations like this one have me feeling like I don't know right now how this doesn't get to day, not just 182, but day 282, day 382. In the complex region where we live, I really believe that for the entire region, for all of the complexity and all the stress going on there, that the single most important thing that could happen to kind of release tension from that region is get these hostages home.
I completely agree.
Get them home, and we'll deal with all the big issues. But this one is like the
most
core.
leverage to the look. The bad guys have to be Hamas. I understand the complexity of the situation better than ever, but it has to start with that. And every time it doesn't, I think it's a step backwards. My promise to you remains the same. I give you all the space you need to do whatever you can to raise whatever awareness, wherever you want. You always have a place on any platform I have.
Thank
And
you.
it will never go away. And I do owe an apology that it hasn't been more front and center. I get carried away with the story of the day as much as anybody else. But there was something for me. I love Jose Andres. And there was something about how outraged people are about the aid workers getting hit, which they should be.
Of course.
Which
We're
reminded
also
me.
outraged. It's terrible.
Yeah, of course.
Well, and
But it
the other
reminded me,
thing.
it's like, yeah, we should be outraged. They're not supposed to get hit. And what about the hostages?
Well, and what's interesting with that is, of course, we were horrified when we heard that, as any normal human being would feel when innocent, wonderful, righteous, generous, kind people are horribly killed. And it was an accident. I mean, what a tragedy. And I also said, this is what happens in war. Wonderful, innocent people get killed in war. And that's why we need to come up with better, insightful, intelligent ways of dealing with when we have conflict. Israel 2 months ago also accidentally killed 3 of our own hostages
Yes.
who had heroically escaped, and we killed them. And that was another horrible tragedy that happened. That is war. Horrible things happen to innocent people, and the loss of those 7 people is heartbreaking.
I was going to call you when that happened, but I could see from the video that what we know about Hirsch, because of the injury he had, I didn't see anybody like that. So I didn't even want to put the possibility there. Rachel, Jonathan, the promise is 100%. Anytime I can do anything, I'm a call away. We'll be going back into the region because people need to understand we've been out too long. It's become another news story, and it can't be.
We need much more than just awareness. But awareness matters. It's what makes people then take the next step, which is action. And we wake up every day thinking, today's going to be the day that the news cycles and the congressional cycles just move on from this story. So if you could at least help us keep the story alive,
Right,
so that we could then go on top of the awareness and drive action, it's so important. So thank you.
I'll do it. Thank you for spending time with me. I look forward to a better day. And I know
I
you
look
do
forward
as well.
to being here with Hirsch next time.
That would make my life.
Ours too.
That would give hope for so much that is needed. And
Hope is mandatory. That's what we say every morning when we wake up.
Done. And I look forward to it. And until then, I'm a call away.
Thank you.
Thank you for being with us. Let's take a break, 4 minutes, 5 seconds. When we come back, so the president is going to Maryland. Obviously, we all know about the bridge collapsing. I'm very interested.